Jayanam Namo Loe Savasahunam Eso Panchanamo Karo Sarva Pavapanasano Mangalanancha Sarvesim Paramam Have Mangalam Paramam Have Mangalam. So today we're going to be talking about the 6 substances, which is chapter 14 of the book. So the first thing to know is that the universe was not created. It's always been in existence and it will always be there. So that gets us around the problem of having a creator. The questions of creation or having a creator does not arise because the universe has always been there. So there are 6 substances in the universe. They are the soul, Jiv, matter, Budgal, a medium of motion, a medium of rest, space, and time. Dharmastikai is the medium of motion. Adharmastikai is the medium of rest. Akash is the medium is space, and Kal is the medium of time. So all of the 6 substances, the reason that they're substances is because they're indestructible, imperishable, immortal, and eternal. But that doesn't mean that they stay the same. They continuously change. The common attributes of all 6 substances are that they are non-destructible, as we talked about. They have a function. There is a basis for them to change their state. They have a quality and a shape. And they have, one of the qualities is that you can't change or mix them into another substance. So you can't mix Budgal and Jiv. You can't mix Dharmastikai and Adharmastikai. You can think of them as elemental. Don't think of them as elements because we know that you can break apart elements, right? Scientific elements. But think of them as the concept of elemental in that they are the basic substances of the universe. So we talked about the special qualities. Each of them has a special quality. The special quality of soul is consciousness. The special quality of matter is that it has a touch, taste, smell, and color. The soul doesn't have a form, but matter does have a form. The special quality of the medium of motion is that it helps things move. The special quality of the medium of rest is that it helps things to stop. The special quality of space is that it provides space in which substances can reside. And the special quality of time is that it continuously changes. Come on in. We're looking at chapter 14. We're talking about the 6 substances of the universe. So the most important substance, of course, is Jiv. There are, and by Jiv we mean souls, remember? And the soul is different from the body. There are an infinite number of souls, and they have been coexistent with the universe. So Jiv also does not have a beginning and does not have an end. The number of souls in the universe cannot be increased or decreased, so there's a fixed number. The soul expands or contracts to suit the size of the body it occupies. We talked about the great quality of Jiv, consciousness, but it also has other qualities. Jnana, darshan, bliss, and energy. So we're going to talk about those 4 first. So questions so far about the broad overview of the 6 substances. Okay, so let's talk about the qualities of Jiv. The first one is Jnana, or knowledge. As we talked about in our class on karma, there are 5 types: Mati Jnana, Shruti Jnana, Avdi Jnana, Mana Pariyaya Jnana, and Keval Jnana. Mati Jnana is the knowledge derived through the senses. Shruti Jnana is the knowledge derived through symbols and signs, such as words. Avdi Jnana is psychic knowledge. Mana Pariyaya Jnana is knowledge of ideas and thoughts of others, for example, things that don't happen in this room. And Keval Jnana is infinite knowledge. So moving on to the second quality of Jiv is darshan. Here darshan means general perception and vision. There are 4 types of darshan. Chaksu darshan, which allows your soul to perceive through your eye. Achaksu darshan, you get awareness, your soul perceives through your other 4 organs, your other senses, ear, nose, tongue, and skin. Avdi darshan, which is your psychic knowledge, and Keval darshan, which is unlimited knowledge. So the next quality of Jiv, remember we're talking about you, Jiv, soul. Don't think of this as some abstract thing we're reading from the textbook. We're talking about you, okay? You have these things. The next one is bliss, okay? So it is a quality of you that you have pure bliss. And then, of course, now your pure bliss is being blocked by karma and your body. And your pure bliss, that is an inherent quality of you, is being defiled by karma, which is the result of your own actions. So this next one is very interesting, and it is more than the 5 sentences we see here, is energy. You have the capacity for unlimited energy. So the amount of proper darshan and jnana is dependent on the amount of energy and its use. And here is the critical sentence that it takes some time to think about. Energy is the very operation of knowledge and perception. Efficient use of energy can shed karma, and energy can be expressed as the capacity of the soul to give and receive. Pure, proper, and unlimited use of energy stops the influx of karma and sheds the bonded karma, so the soul realizes unlimited consciousness. So that is a lot to unpack, and the implications are quite profound. When we think of a soul in Siddhasila, we think of it as, so remember Siddhasila is moksha, right? And those souls are liberated. And those souls experience their own qualities of pure, unlimited bliss and energy. But when we think of it as being boring, right? We think of them, all these souls are in Siddhasila, they're not doing anything. They are not interacting with the world. And we know it's not boring, theoretically, right? But when we think about it, we think they're not doing anything. But actually, they are doing quite a bit. They are using their infinite energy to create their infinite bliss. Okay? So remember, energy is the very operation of knowledge and perception. They're using their infinite energy combined with their omnipotent knowledge and perception to constantly perform samvar and constantly perform almost instantaneously any nirjara of any kind of karma that accrues on their soul. So they're constantly using their energy, and the result of using all that energy is that they are experiencing the bliss. So in fact, it's not that they're doing nothing. It's not that the souls in Siddhasila are doing nothing. They're doing more than we can even imagine, because they're using their infinite energy to experience the infinite bliss. So that's kind of the simplest way I can put it. I know it's a little bit confusing. So when we think about them, it's not that it's boring. They would think that our lives are boring because we are very constrained in the amount. We think of energy as food and fuel, right? We use fuel to do the things we want. Well, a soul in Siddhasila uses its own infinite energy all the time to experience infinite bliss, because it combines its infinite energy with the correct knowledge and correct perception to block out any karma. It's constantly doing this, and it's constantly experiencing this bliss that we have no idea about. So now when you picture, let's say you picture different souls in Siddhasila, it's not, come on in. It's not boring. It's not that they're not doing anything. It's not they're content with doing nothing and watching the world go by them. In fact, they are content with expending all of their energy to create as much happiness for themselves as possible. So this, I think, is kind of an overlooked type of thing. And that's one of the properties of your soul. The most important quality of the soul is consciousness. I don't have to describe that to you all because all of you are very intimately aware, having direct experience of your own consciousness. So we can skip that part. So questions about that, especially the infinite energy part.
So if I'm trying to understand what you're saying, so when we take moksha, we would think, okay, they're, you call it boring, right? Like, but they're actually doing something.
Right, so kind of the thing that we theoretically know it's not boring, right? We just don't know what it's like to be in moksha, right? But our kind of, uninformed thoughts are, well, it's super boring, they just have a state, they're not doing anything, they're just experiencing things. But in fact, they're doing quite a bit. They're doing much more than we ever can experience.
So, the soul itself, right? I mean, Atma, that it's something hard to imagine because, like, this body, that we have a body, but body's not us. It's like almost a layer of clothing.
Right.
Another layer of clothing on our Atma.
Right.
But it's hard to imagine. Now, we're talking about, like, all the qualities of Atma itself, right?
Right.
And like it's a little bit harder when it's not tangible.
Sure.
Body's tangible, so you can say, okay, that's me.
Right.
But it gets a little bit challenging when we talk about Atma and its qualities.
Absolutely.
Just to grasp it becomes more difficult.
Absolutely. So the Jivas can be categorized in two groups, the liberated and non-liberated. The liberated souls, of course, have no karma. They're not in the cycle of birth and death. They have perfect knowledge, perception, and infinite vigor and bliss, like we just talked about. The non-liberated soul, the scriptures state there are 8.4 million types of births of Jiv. So I think that means there are 8.4 million types of beings that a Jiv can inhabit. Types of bodies, that a Jiv can inhabit. And the non-liberated souls can be classified as immobile and mobile. Immobile means you can't move from your own will. All right, so these are the 1 through 5 sense beings. Oh, sorry, these are all the 1 sense beings. The 1 sense beings are earth-bodied, water-bodied, fire-bodied, air-bodied, and plant-bodied. So these things cannot move from their own will. So, believe it or not, these things are alive and contain souls. Inanimate forms of earth are actually living beings. For example, clay, sand, metal, and coral. I think coral is easy to see how coral is living, but these other things are living too. Believe it or not, seemingly inanimate forms of different types of water are living beings. Dew, fog, and iceberg, rain, etc. These things all have Jiv in them. 1 sense beings. Believe it or not, seemingly inanimate forms of different types of fires are living beings. Flames, blaze, I'm not sure what that is, lightning, a forest fire, hot ash, coals, etc. These things are living beings. They are fire-bodied, 1 sense beings. Believe it or not, different forms of air are actually living beings. Wind, whirlwinds, cyclones, etc. And believe it or not, well, I think most people believe that plants are living beings, right? So the first 4 of the 5 are a little bit, you may not have known, and a little bit hard to imagine.
So don't any of these things have to grow? Even a single cell grows, right? How does the metal grow?
Growth is not a definition of life. Because these things are bodies that Jiv occupies. So growth doesn't come into the picture. Neither does birth or death well, I think birth and death do come into the picture. But there are many, many souls in these things. So, questions or comments about those?
So are we calling, say for example, water consists of H2O, right?
Right.
So are we calling the hydrogen cell as actually having a life? 1 drop of water is, as per this definition, it is one cell organism, right?
So it's not that one cell has 1 Jiv in it. different bodies of water have different amounts of Jeev in it, and we don't know. I can't tell you that this rain, each drop is 1 Jeev. I can't tell you that each drop is 10 Jeevs. I can't tell you that each drop has 100 Jeevs in it. It's all different. Hey, come on in. I mean, you bombed out of the chess tournament that fast? You must have come across a genius or something. Some genius kid. Today we're talking about the 6 substances. And we just talked about how earth, fire, wind, and air are actually living beings that have Jeev in them. Are actually bodies that have Jeev in them. So we're trying to wrap our head around that. And I can't tell you the specific number of souls in each thing, because I don't know. So as far as plants, there are 2 different types of plants. There's 1 soul per cell, and then there's infinite souls per cell. In an infinite soul per cell life, many souls occupy the same body. There are an infinite number of souls in one body in root vegetables such as potatoes, carrots, onions, garlic, and beets. So another word for that concept is nigoth. And there are 2 types of nigoth. Subtle nigoth are all over the universe. So subtle nigoth are these root vegetables. And then stool nigoth, which is gross nigoth, are at a few places in the universe where a bunch of souls reside in the same body. Okay, so we talked about Jeev. Let's talk about Ajeev. Everything else is Ajeev, okay, as far as the 6 substances. So, Pudgal, Dharmastikai, Adharmastikai, Akash, and Kal, all Ajeev. So let's talk about Pudgal. Questions or comments before we talk about Pudgal? Alright, so Pudgal is made of 2 words. Pud means join and Gal means disintegrate. So Pudgal is constantly joining and disintegrating. Karma is Pudgal. Pudgal is anything you think of as matter. The properties of Pudgal are color, taste, smell, and how they feel. Your body is Pudgal. Remember that. Your body is Pudgal. Your sense organs are Pudgal. Because they're not you. They're not Jeev. So let's talk about bodies. Remember, your body is Pudgal. So there are 5 bodies. There are 5 types of bodies you can have. Odaric is your gross and visible body. So that's what we perceive. Vaikriya body is the bodies of celestial and hellish beings. That body gives those beings supernatural powers. The Aharaka body is the body acquired by an ascetic endowed with self-restraint. So we don't have those because we're not at the right stage yet. Tejas and Karman body we do have. And these are 2 bodies, are the bodies that travel with your soul. These are the bodies that travel with your soul throughout your multiple lives. The Tejas body is the fiery body, and it provides your internal energy. So when you eat food and to convert that into energy, that's what the Tejas body does. And the Karman body is, of course, the karmic particles that trap your soul. And so, obviously, when you achieve Kevalyan and when you achieve Moksha, then you release these 2 bodies. These other bodies, the first 3 bodies, don't travel with you throughout your multiple lives. The second ones do, the second set of 2 do, and then once you achieve Kevalyan and Moksha, then you get rid of those bodies.
So does our karmas from previous life, so that's how it sticks to our soul and comes into a new body when we enter a new body?
Yes, so the process of karma sticking to your soul is called ban, and there are different qualities of ban that mainly are informed by your state of mind and the intensity with which you perform the actions. And those karmas stick with you throughout the multiple lifetimes. And that's why something you did 3 lives ago can affect you now, because what's the same? The karman body around your soul.
So it always sticks forever?
The karman body? No. The goal is to get rid of it. And the goal is to get rid of the karman body, and then we'll achieve moksha. All right, so we talked about Jeev and Ajeev. The other ones are less interesting, so any questions before we move on to those? Okay, so let's talk about Dharmastikai, the medium of motion. It's one thing, and we liken it, it's everywhere. It's everywhere in our universe, and it allows Pudgal and Jeev to move. So it's like a fish in water. That is, water helps the fish move. The only thing that's interesting is that some people think that it forces you to move. No, it doesn't force you to move. You have to expend your own energy to move. It just allows you to move in space. Adharmastikai is the medium of rest. It allows things to stop. You don't have to, it doesn't make you stop. You don't have to fight it. It just you have to expend energy to stop, and then it will let you stop. So questions about the medium of motion and the medium of rest. Okay, so let's move on to Akash, space. It's a little bit confusing in what we normally kind of intuit about space. So space, we all know the universe is shaped like a man with his arms akimbo, right? So space is both inside and outside. Okay, all of that is Akash. So now we divide that into two places, Lokakash and Alokakash. Okay, so there are three parts of Lokakash, that is the inside of the universe. Urdhvaloka, that's where the heavenly being live, and at the top of the structure of heaven is Siddhasila, which we've been talking about. Madhyaloka, which is where we live, the middle portion, and Adhaloka, which is where the hellish being lives. Okay, so and then outside of is Alokakash. But it's all space. And the difference between the space inside and the space outside is inside you have the medium of motion, and outside you do not have the medium. Inside you have the medium of motion and rest, and outside you do not have the medium of motion and rest. But it's all space. And so but outside it's empty and it's void. Okay? So it's not that there's nothing there. There is space there, but nothing can exist there because there's no medium of motion and medium of rest. Questions on that?
You're talking about this one.
Right.
Anything outside this one?
Right. So inside is Lokakash and outside is Alokakash. But everything is space. And then inside you have the medium of motion and medium of rest. And that's why things can exist here. And outside, it's still space, but there's no medium of motion and no medium of rest. And that is why no other substances, none of the other 5 substances, can exist outside. The only one that exists is space. Because it's Akash. So here's how to try to say the same thing again in case it was too confusing. All of this is Akash. But we just divide it up into 2. Inside is Lokakash and outside is Alokakash. But it's all Akash.
Is this the same space or universe that NASA talks about?
Right, so very interesting question. So what NASA has done is we have discovered, let me grab a piece of paper. Okay, so the universe looks like this. It looks like a man with his arms akimbo. And this is 3D, right? So imagine if this turned in a circle. So it's like cones almost. Okay, so here is where we live, okay? Here are the 14 or whatever, how many heavenly levels there are. Here's Siddhasila. Here's how many hellish levels there are. I forget the number right now. Okay, so this is where we live. Okay, so now I'm going to draw for you a top-down version of this plane. Okay? A top-down version of this plane looks like this. Okay? Here is where we are. This is a land portion. Okay? This is a water portion. This is a land portion. And it goes like that for a couple more circles. Okay? Like concentric circles. Okay? All science has discovered is this portion. That's all it's discovered. The farthest we can see does not get out of this portion. we have not seen this entire water mass, or the entire land mass that is outside of that, or the entire water mass that is outside of that. And that's, remember, this plane. So that's all that science knows about. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. It looks like
Yeah.
concentric circles
Yeah, yeah.
where
You can
we
see
are.
it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about time. This is a fun one. So time is the measure of change in soul and matter. Okay, so here's a nice table as far as the count, what time is. So in fact, there might be some scientific proof that that time is not analog, that time is digital. The latest science suggests that there is a very discrete moment of time that there can be no smaller portion of time. And so science is again finding out what Jainism has already told us a long time ago. And we call that indivisible moment one samai. So in countless samais, we have one avalika. And then in about 16 billion avalikas, we have one muhurt, which is 48 minutes, which we know about. And so we can go along this table until we have 12 months is a year, and countless years is one paliyopam. And then we have more kind of divisions of time until we get to Utsarpini and Avsarpini, which is half cycles of the circular wheel of time. One Kal Chakra, which is one full cycle. So one Uvsarpini and one Avsarpini. And then we have an infinite number of those. Okay?
Is the Samai time 48 minutes? Is that related to this 1,1677
Yes,
Avalika?
absolutely.
13 million.
Which was, okay, so it was kind of measured like an hour. Now we have 1 hour 60 minutes. But I guess in past it was like one murat.
Right,
So that's how it became more for 48 minutes.
right.
Okay.
So, is this like a Jain calendar? This is what's today?
Oh yeah, there's a Jain calendar.
Yeah.
What year is it? Anybody know?
From the 20 to
47 or something like that?
Right.
Yeah, it's ahead.
Yeah.
So what does he use as a starting point? If it's 20, even a number, based on all this, it just seems like there would be no point.
That's correct. So the Jain calendar is not based on this. It's based on the Mahavir Swami.
Yeah, from
And it's
birth of-
lunar. It's based
Yeah.
on the number of lunar years since either Mahavir
usually
Swami's
this-
birth or
this-
death.
No, it's a Veer Samvad, right? We call it Veer Samvad. So Veer is a Mahavir, Veer
Oh,
Samvad.
yeah, based on that. Okay.
And the moon calendar is always 28 days compared to the sun calendar 31 days. So you're always going to be ahead of the sun calendar numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's based on the moon calendar.
But then it tells you like, oh, we start with the same 180 or, and then it starts going. But yeah, 48
You're a
minutes.
little bit older.
Yeah.
That you
When at 40, you're really 60.
Well, I didn't think about you're born and applying to Jain.
It does have Poonam and Amas, so I think
It's 14
so
days.
14, how does it?
It's 14 days, right?
tomorrow is
Every-
Chadas, right?
Every 14 days you have Purnam or Amas, right? So it's
I was thinking-
28,
Yeah, so 1 month is 28 days. only.
28 days is the moon calendar.
Oh, okay.
Not unlike January being 31 and
Right.
March being.
So it's somewhere between 14 to 15.
That's what
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
trying to.
50, yes.
So it's
Somewhere between
faster. Or
Yeah,
shorter.
it's fast.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we talked about it from smallest to largest. A little bit confusing. I'm going to talk about it now from largest to smallest, okay? So we have infinite Kal Chakras. That's all of time, from no beginning to no end, okay? So we're going to divide that up into time cycles, okay? And so we'll talk about the different time cycles. So out of all of time, we have one Kal Chakra. We have many Kal Chakras, okay? So I'm going to divide that up. And one Kal Chakra is one ascending time and one descending time. Those are equal, okay? So in every Kal Chakra, the ascending and descending times are equal, okay? So the progressive cycle or ascending cycle is called Utsarpini. The regressive cycle is called Avsarpini. Okay, now here's where it gets a little bit confusing. Utsarpini, which is half, and Avsarpini, which is half, are not divided equally. They're divided into 6 parts each, but those parts aren't equal. So I'm going to go to the drawing again. Okay, so we have infinite Kal chakras, okay? This is all of time, okay? So now let's talk about one Kal chakra, okay? This is divided into half. We'll call this one descending and this one ascending. So which one is descending? Avsarpini, right? Avsarpini. Oh, okay, and this one is ascending. Utsarpini. Okay, so what I say when this is not divided equally, it's divided like this. Like this, and like this, like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and like this, and like this. It's not equal. That's what I mean. And I think these are actually supposed to be the largest. So I think it's more like this. So it's like very short and then it gets large. And then it's the same thing on this side. That is, this is large, this is a little bit smaller, this is a little smaller, like that. That's what I mean by those aren't divided equally. They're 6, but they're not divided equally. Okay, so where are we? We are right here. We're in Avsarpini, descending. Okay, that means things are going to get worse for a long time. The top, we can see the top is where things are the best. Okay, we can think of the bottom as where things are the worst. And what do I mean by best and worst? I mean that I'm talking about happiness, strength, age, the body, and religious trends. Okay, so we're getting worse. And okay, so let's talk about the names, and then we can talk about what happens in each one. So the names are Susham Susham, very happy. Okay, Susham, happy. Susham Dusham, mostly happy. Dusham Susham, mostly unhappy. Dusham, unhappy. And Dusham Dusham, which is very unhappy. We're in Dusham right now, unhappy. And our future is Dusham Dusham, very unhappy. And what does that mean, very unhappy? Well, we'll get to that. And so now as when we get to the lowest point of Dusham Dusham, we're still going to be in Dusham Dusham, but then we're going to go back up. Okay? And then we're going to get better at happiness, strength, age, body, and religious trends. Okay? So we're, the previous Ara, let's see. Okay, so our Ara began 2,500 years ago. Okay? So that's when our
Dusham started.
That's when Dusham started. And it's going to last for 21,000 years. Okay? And then we're going to get into very unhappy. Okay, so that's where we are now. Okay. So now let's talk about it from the top to the bottom.
Those are lunar years, right? Just I want to make sure.
Yes, they are lunar years. Yeah, so a little bit less than you were expecting.
All right.
So we are towards the tail end of Dusham.
Right. And
No.
tail end of...
No,
Oh, we just started. We just
Yeah,
started.
it's
We just started.
about 10%.
All right.
Don't worry, you got a long life.
No, I know. So, well, anyway, I'll keep my comments for later.
So let's talk about it. This is the fun part, okay? What happens, what do I mean by very happy? Okay? During this phase, people are very tall and live for a very long time. That's why, Rishabdev was like 108 feet tall, and he lived for like 200, 300 years, right? Because he was born in this time, right? The children are born as twins, a boy and a girl. You always have a sister and you always have a brother, okay? Always someone to go through your life with you. All your needs and desires are fulfilled by 10 different kinds of wish-giving trees. So you consult this tree and you ask it and it gives it to you. Very nice. The trees give you a place to live. They give you clothes, pots and pans, good food, fruits and sweets. The trees give you music. They give you jewelry. They give you beautiful flowers, radiant lamps, and a bright light at night. These wish-giving trees, okay?
So you get a certain number of wishes, like 3 wishes.
You get infinite number of wishes, okay? There's no killing, crime, or other vices, okay? We can't even imagine them. We can imagine there have been some depictions in media about a post-scarcity society or a utopian society, but it's hard for us to imagine. That's Susham Susham. So the next one is happy, but it's not as happy. The wish-giving trees continue to provide for you, but you're not as tall, and you don't live as long, so the lifespan is shortening. Okay? So the next phase, as we're going into more unhappy, you're still mostly happy, but the wish-giving trees still provide you what you need, but you have more unhappiness. I guess this is not that well defined. All it says is you're just unhappy. So towards the end of this era, Rishabdev became the first Tirthankar. So sorry, there's not much detail there for you in the book. So the next phase is mostly unhappy, more unhappy. This is where 23 of the Tirthankars were born. And this era ended 3 years and 8 months after Mahavir Swami's Nirvana. Okay? So the next one is the one we're in. We just started it because Mahavir Swami just died in this cosmic time scale. So Mahavir Swami was the last one because he was born in the previous era. So no one born in the current era can achieve liberation. But that doesn't mean you don't try. And that doesn't mean that your efforts in this life are wasted. And that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Okay? That's what I want you to get out of it. Because the things you do now still will affect you. And then later on, when you can achieve liberation, you will be better off if you try now. Okay? So this is the time cycle we're currently in. By the end of this, the Jain religion is going to be lost. Okay, so most likely, we might see it die here. Your kids might see Jain religion die. Okay, your kids might see Jain religion die. So think about how special we are to know the truth. Because from here, 21,000 years, and the next phase, which happens twice in a row. Remember, the next phase happens twice in a row. There's going to be nobody is going to know the truth. We are among the very last people to know the truth before the next Tirthankar occurs and sets up the Jain order again. So think about how precious it is that you know the truth and nobody else knows the truth. Remember our example of being in a forest and we were looking for a path because we knew there was a path out of the forest and we knew there was something beyond the forest. That's all going to go away. The people that think that there is no path will be everybody. The people that we meet and who tell us, why are you doing all these things? There's no way out of the forest. There's no path. This is all there is. That will be the prevailing thought and they will not know the truth. So that's where we're headed. That's our future.
This sounds like Matrix.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds like Batman and Robin when they punch each other and it says, wow, tradition. That's how it sounds like.
So the next phase, luckily we won't participate in the next phase. People experience nothing but suffering. No trace of any religious activities. The lifespan of people will be short, exceeding no more than 20 years. Most people will be non-vegetarian. All social structure is destroyed. The weather becomes extreme. We're already seeing that. The days will be very hot and the nights will be very cold. That's what our children and their children's children have to look forward to. So that's Kal. Remember, we're talking about the 6 substances. That is how Kal is described. So questions about time.
Hopefully Green Deal will extend this time frame a little bit longer than everything gets destroyed.
So this is
We have
Kali Yuga.
18,000 years left.
Yeah.
This is called Kali Yuga. Is that correct? Kali Yuga. Are we in Kali Yuga?
What is Kal Yuga?
Satyuga and Kaliyuga. It's a Hinduism.
Oh, okay.
Oh, not Jainism. I thought.
You can use that word. Everybody uses
Oh,
that.
okay.
This is the Kal Chakra is the Kal Chakra. He showed.
Oh. Culture.
Okay, so the book has a nice conclusion comparing and contrasting the 6 different substances. So the things to know are, out of the 6 substances, only one is living. Okay? That's the Jiv. The other 5 are non-living. And out of the 6 substances, only one has form. That is Pudgal. The other 5 substances do not have any form whatsoever. And that the 3 elements, 3 of the 6 substances are single entities. That is, the medium of motion, the medium of rest, and space. They're just one thing. We know that Jiv are multiple things. There are multiple. We depart from other religions who think that kind of all Jivs are the same and we're all returning to the same Jiv. That is not true. Okay, what it is that there are different Jivs that are self-sufficient and have a distinct identity. Okay, and so Jiv are separate, and what else is the other separate one? Pudgal. Pudgal, they're separate Pudgals. They're not just one. So that's interesting to think about, the kind of the different properties of all these things and how they interchange. So I think kind of the mainly, if you learn something, the controversial stuff is the immobile Jiv, the one sense beings, that earth, air, fire, wind, and water do have Jivs in it, or bodies with Jivs in it. I think maybe if you didn't know about Kal, then about time, the wheel of time, or maybe you kind of half knew about it, then now you should know mostly about where we are in the time cycle. So questions or comments about any of that, or anything we covered today? Can anybody tell me why it's important to know these things? Why does it matter that we know what the 6 substances are?
Your approach in your life will be different.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to know what the water is that you're swimming in, right? To understand, yes, you can look at the book and the beginning part of the book says to act this way. If you act this way, you're on the right path. Well, that's true, but it means more to you, and you can do more Nirdra if you know why you're acting that way. And if you understand the physics behind why we do things, then you'll be better informed. And frankly, that will allow you to perform it better and do it longer, right? So it's important. On some level, it's important to know these things, and on some level, it's not. But I think it's more important than not to know these things.
But the other argument, and not that I believe in this, but just the first thinking that came to my mind earlier when we think, okay, we're going to introduce Dusham now, right? Everybody's going to be non-vegetarian, the life is going to be short.
Mm-hmm.
So if we start doing the good or purifying our soul now, we might lose that completely during that time frame. And then, so why start the journey now? And wait until the Dusham passes, and then, our soul will purify again. I mean, just an argument, not that I believe in it at all. But by knowing this, it might hinder one to start the process.
No, actually, it should not. Like I said, I don't think you believe that. But we know about the karmic body, right? So whatever we can do to reduce our karma, that travels with us. So that will be with us in Dusham. And so, yes, life is short, but we'll have an easier time of it than we would had we not done our Nirdra now.
See, the statement over here says Aras and Utsarpini are in reverse order. So even once you are in Dusham, when you're ascending back up, you're still in Dusham again. So that
right, it happens twice in a
still-
row.
Or almost
reverse,
thrice.
right?
Yeah, almost thrice. Going down, so still in the basement, still coming up towards the top of the basement,
Right,
and then getting towards the happier stage.
that's right.
So like 42,000 years.
Plus how much of a
Plus or
long-
minus.
Yeah, Dusham.
Minimal.
Minimum.
So I will be
A
out
few
of
more nights.
I will be out of town next week. Does anybody want to take the class next week? Now is your
Is
opportunity.
it Deras or no?
I-
Never mind.
I
was
think that
thinking
we will
about
have
staying back
Batsala,
already there,
so-
yeah.
But I'm out of town. Anybody want to take class next week?
There is a topic that I want to have a discussion on.
Okay.
But that's a discussion, not the class.
No, that's fine.
And the two topics that I have in mind is one is what is life, and I think you have your definition that you've given me stuck to my mind. But I'm not on the path yet. So that's how I wanted to have a discussion on what is life.
Sure.
And the second one is destiny. How is destiny created? And talking a little bit about the Jyotish, and how we go is like they tell you should do this, and you start believing it, and then even happens and like, oh yeah, that guy told me to do it, so I believe it. And so those are the two topics I wanted to discuss at some point in time.
Okay,
But-
it can be as easy as you making a list of questions that you have and bringing it to the group, and we all discuss it.
Okay.
It can be that easy as far as preparation. Do you want to take the class next week?
I'm not ready for the class. I was just the two topics I had
Discussion.
Discussion.
Oh,
Yeah.
do you want to take the discussion next week?
All right. I'll
Worst case, we'll phone dial Brain Jyotish.
that sounds good. Okay.
Okay, so you're here next week then.
Yeah.
Okay.
We
Great.
could probably add there's something which is going on. I know all of us have read about the recent CRPF blast, and if we want to life and destiny, and if we again at the end, if we have time, maybe we look from their perspective as to for them what was it. I mean, they were just traveling in a lorry, and then they got blown up by a person who was brainwashed, 19-year-old Kashmiri boy. So probably we can also touch that bit in the end. Again, it will cover life and destiny. So I think that is something which I'm currently following very, very closely to see what or how India responds back.
Right.
There's a lot of words being, or a lot of things being spoken about, but I don't know what is the next step the government will actually take. So,
Right.
yeah.
Thank you everybody for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.